All right, welcome to APS Radio number 4. With me today, Major Allison Breger. Good afternoon, dear.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Oh, I am in hour 5 of the second round of the Moderna COVID vaccine. So I'm feeling good right now.
You feel good now. We'll see how you feel tomorrow.
Well, I feel like I'm just sort of in a relaxed state. I don't know if it's because my immune system is ramping up for a cytokine storm or it just somehow relaxed me, but we're just going to go with it.
All right, and I like it. You're wearing the Browns uh,
That's right.
hoodie.
I
We're
know
uh, we're taping this a little bit early. We just had a Super Bowl last night. So,
we
and your Browns did put up more of a fight.
They did put up a fight against the Chiefs, but I was cheering for Tom Brady. I mean, come on. Greatest of all time. The man needs to write a book on leadership. And sure, you can knock him about the Flake Gate, but come on. Sun Tzu's Art of War. That's all that was, is
What is
deception
he?
at its finest, using the Art of War tactics.
What is that? 7 champions he had? Championships?
That was his 7th Super Bowl appearance, and I believe his 6th Super Bowl win, right?
I think 7th win, but you know what? It doesn't matter because Ric Flair has 16 championships, and that's all that matters.
That's
Woo!
true. That is true.
All right, so
Rollins needs to catch up with him, but yeah,
yes, yes. So let's go through your whole little background, if you don't mind, which is going to take up half the episode itself.
sure.
Grew up in Youngstown, Ohio.
That's right. Good old yo.
Former paper girl,
Mm-hmm.
right? Past champion at Connect Four.
Actually, I was really terrible at that game.
Okay, all right. Some of these are not true. First female pole vaulter in the state of OHIO.
That is true.
Bachelor degree in science and psychology from Brown University.
Yes, sir.
Where is Brown University?
It is in Providence, Rhode Island. I used to think it was in New Jersey until my parents dropped me off, and I realized I was in Rhode Island and not New Jersey.
All right. While you were there, you were a Division One athlete in track and field.
Yep,
All right. Then you decided to go back to Ohio to Kent State.
sure did.
Doctorate in psychology, no physiology.
Physiology, yeah.
Even with my big print, I can't read. You then became a research professor at Morehouse School of Medicine,
I sure did.
and then a U.S. Army neuroscientist and recruiter.
Well, recruiter is a loose term, but I do work for the recruiting command now.
Yeah, and that's actually the next thing is you are officially certified in TikTok and a Snapchatter.
Oh, yeah. Well, I did have to receive training on that because, yes, the Army,
She has continuing ed and TikTok and Snapchat.
yeah, I hate to admit it, but yes, it's true.
With all the social media stuff, she still prefers MySpace. Is that true?
Yeah, Tom is still one of my best friends.
Yes. Uh, you then became chief of the Sleep Research Center at the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research.
Mhm.
That sounds pretty damn official.
Yeah, they're a pretty amazing team over there. I miss them a lot.
We're going to talk a lot about that stuff.
For sure.
You completed in the first CrossFit Games.
Well, not the first one. My teammate from college competed in the first one. I competed in the 6th and the 8th one as on
Okay.
a
What happened to number 7?
um I went as an individual and only made it to regionals, which is
Okay.
still pretty good.
All
But
right. Sorry I had to bring that up.
it's okay.
You are part of the O2X sleep specialist,
I
part of the
sure
O2X team.
absolutely.
Those guys are awesome. Those guys and gals.
They're phenomenal.
You are an author, Meathead and Off Colored Rainbows.
Yep.
And then you, like you said, you received your COVID shot today, number 2.
Number 2.
All right. We're getting there good. She would probably not want to do this tomorrow. At least that's how I felt. I felt like crap. Same shot. I had COVID just like you. It didn't go well. Day 2 for me, but it affects everybody differently.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I had COVID, but I had all the symptoms before we actually knew what COVID was, because I basically all of last January and February followed patient zero, that lawyer from New Rochelle, around the country. And my best friend lives in New Rochelle, like a few blocks from him. So I'm pretty sure I had it before we knew what it was.
Yeah, and you spent a ton of time in New York too.
I did, yes. So I like to think I developed some super antibodies in New York. We were there. It was a no-knock deployment. We got called out the end of March. Didn't have any idea when we were coming back, but we ended up coming back towards the end of May.
Nice. And you even got to go on, and I forget the ship name, but you were that
Uh,
kind of that hospital base that's on the sea, basically.
Yeah, it was serendipitous. I got to go on that. So I ran the COVID lab inside the field support hospital, and we were constantly like at critically low levels of supplies. And honestly, I don't know what we would have done if I didn't drive my Jeep to New York, because I felt like most days we were driving my Jeep to pull up to the Comfort. And then my other Army battle had a friend from the Navy, because he used to be in the Navy. So between his connection and my Jeep, I'm not sure what we would have done with the critically low supplies, but we made it happen. And as serendipity would have it, I got to go on the Comfort a few times. Just couldn't take any pictures for operational security reasons.
Do you want to real quick kind of discuss what the Comfort is?
Yes. So, in my humble opinion, the USS Comfort is the most amazing feat of human engineering. It's basically a fully functioning hospital on a ship. Uh, they can do neurosurgeries, they can do cardiothoracic procedures, just any sort of high level complex procedure you would have done in a prestigious, New York, Boston, Dallas hospital is done on a ship in the middle of the ocean.
That's pretty cool. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So,
Much better than that.
yes, no. So let's kind of get to the gist of why I kind of suckered you into doing this to begin with. Let's talk about sleep. It's kind of what you do. You do other things too, but let's talk about sleep.
Yep.
Why do what?
I also love to sleep. I do practice what I preach.
As soon as we get done, she's going to take a nap.
For sure.
Yeah. So, why is sleep so important?
Well, sleep has many universal functions, and the bluff is if you don't sleep, you become very unhealthy, you become very sick. And as they have shown in animal models, they have shown that animal models basically die when they're deprived of sleep. It's important for replenishing energy restores. It's important for clearing toxins from the brain. It's important for learning new information and retaining it the next day. It's important for our emotional and psychological health. I can go on and on and on. It is absolutely important. And we know, unfortunately, like you as a firefighter and me as military, we know it's important when we're without it, right? Like sleep deprivation is the worst form of torture. Like, and so that right there just shows just how critical it is.
So, kind of talking about the military and sleep. For the longest time, part of just military training was sleep deprivation. Putting
Yep.
you out there, and this is how it could be when you're out in the field and you're 48 hours, whatever it may be, give or take, hours where you're awake and you're expected to function. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, that happens a little bit, but for the most part, they've kind of went a different way with that. And I know your team was a big part of changing that. Could you kind of go into that if you don't mind?
Absolutely. So, yeah, there are some military training exercises that are so historically rooted and traditional to the military, such as Ranger School training, right? Like, the fact that those cadets are sleep deprived for 72 to 96 hours nonstop, even though we know all the negative consequences of sleep deprivation, there are certain traditions that or selection processes that will not change. Um, Even select marksmanship exercises downrange on a mission. I was part of one where we were essentially awake for 60 hours. We were with the 1st Armored Division out of Fort Bliss, and we rolled out right outside of Kuwait, did a marksmanship exercise for 48 hours. But again, in order to prepare for war, you have to train for war, right? And so sometimes you have to do it, because when you're in that real world situation, what are you going to do then if you've never experienced it before? But those are the unique cases, right? For the most part, what our team has been very instrumental in is education and implementing ways that soldiers can get the best sleep possible when they're not doing these crazy missions. So how can we best improve their sleep downrange in theater, given all the constraints? Myself, when I was in Kuwait, we slept in a shipping container next to a flight line. Like, you talk about trying to get good quality sleep, even when you're really sleep deprived, it was impossible. So in a situation like that, we would advocate for noise canceling headphones or white noise machines or something to dampen the noise of the airfield in the background. Now, in garrison, back home in theater, it's all about proper sleep hygiene. So what you can do an hour before bed, 30 minutes before bed, and even 15 minutes before bed, to make sure that you are in a position to get the best night of sleep possible.
How do you go about doing that?
So it really is a process, and again, it's something that I preach and I practice, and so do a lot of my colleagues. So to me, the sleep routine schedule starts anywhere from 90 to 60 minutes before bedtime. And it begins with putting away all technology. So even in this day and age where we have blue light blocking glasses, I think people oftentimes use that as an excuse to keep being on their iPad or to keep watching Netflix or to keep texting up until the very minute they go to sleep. But that's not good, because it's stimulating the brain, right? Like, even if you're having a silly text conversation with your friend, it's still stimulating. It's not relaxing. So that's what you want to do. All technology away at least 60 minutes before bed. And then after that, it's doing things that are relaxing to you. Some people, it's listening to podcasts. Others, it's reading a book. Others, it's listening to music. Some do breathing exercises. My recommendation is to do.
I use my phone for all that. I use electronics for all that.
Well, there's such thing as Alexa. So you could just tell Alexa to turn on a certain podcast, or, play some Brahms or some Holst.
Okay.
Some Beethoven, something like that.
Oh, okay.
um,
Alexa, play AC/DC.
Hey, I love AC/DC, but I'm pretty sure that's not optimal to listen to before bedtime.
Probably not. Anyway, as you were. Sorry, I was rude.
Oh, no, you weren't rude at all. But you want to do all of this besides, you don't want to listen to AC/DC under dim light. And the reason for that is because we naturally release this hormone from our pituitary gland called melatonin, and exposure to dim light augments melatonin release. And then some people, like I do this myself, I take a hot shower. And then if I've really, really trashed myself from training, sometimes I will take an over-the-counter sleep supplement. Here and there, melatonin when I'm traveling. But I advocate for sleep supplements as a last resort. That's one thing I think us in the sleep community like to emphasize is you want to make all these behavioral changes first. And then if you still need a little bit of help to coax your brain into a better stage of sleep, then maybe advocate for melatonin or one of the other over-the-counter plant-based sleep hypnotics. We try to get people away from Ambien, Lunesta. There are actually government orders from the military now that soldiers are no longer able to get Ambien and Lunesta on a long haul flight to Afghanistan, and even a prescription for it is much more difficult these days than it used to be in years past.
I can attest to using that and having a pretty bad time a couple
Yeah.
times. So basically sleepwalking through an airport. That actually happened. So
Yeah. No, it's really scary. A lot of those strong hypnotics like Ambien and Lunesta, they stay in your system for up to 16 hours. And as the data shows in the laboratory, it's basically the equivalent of having a blood alcohol content of 0.08 or higher. So you're basically, you were legally drunk walking through the airport, which, I mean, it's probably better to do that, drinking Great Lakes ale, but
look at you. Somebody's been in Cleveland Airport before.
I have.
Yes.
Or Rheingeist, where you are. That's actually, I've gotten. I like that beer. I've gone to the brewery in Cincinnati. They're pretty.
It's a pretty cool place. Yes. How much should we actually be sleeping?
So great question. The human average is 8.4 hours a night. And that basically comes from thousands and thousands of population data points where we're looking at sleep across different cultures and different communities, different races, different ethnicities. So that's the average. The National Sleep Foundation, most like governing bodies say 7 to 9 hours is the sweet spot. So you fall somewhere along that spectrum. I myself, I'm about a 7.5 hour person. I know that because right now I fortunately am in a position where I can get good quality sleep at night. And it doesn't matter like how much I've trained the day before or how much I've, pushed myself psychologically. I always wake up after I get 7.5 hours. So I myself know that's my set point. Some people, unfortunately, are like 9.5 hours. It's just one of those things with
You
trial and.
find me one of those people. I don't think they
Uh,
exist.
I mean,
They're going
look
to be
at,
my next guest.
yeah, that
How
is.
how do you sleep 9.5 hours every day, sir?
I know that's. I mean, there's probably people out there who need that, but they're not in the opportunity. They don't have the opportunity in their career to actually get that. So that's.
Do they have a career?
Well,
That's what
that's the
I'm thinking.
thing. They probably have a career. They're just chronically sleep deprived because they can't get the amount of sleep. And how you test for that is you look at stimulant use across the day. So if you have somebody who's like getting 8 hours of sleep a night and say they, don't have a sleep disorder and they're still tired, then they're probably, unfortunately, one of those people who needs like 9.5, 10 hours of sleep.
Yes. So you mentioned it, so I'll go right to it. You said the magical words sleep disorders.
Mm-hmm.
There's a ton of that with firefighters.
Oh yeah, and military too. I have two of them, so yeah.
So I know just in my station alone, about half of the guys have CPAPs.
Yep.
It probably needs to be more than that, even, doesn't it?
Probably. So the latest assessment of active duty populations, this is across the entire Army of active duty. So we're talking 500,000 soldiers. It was at 72%. And that even includes, this is a report we put out very recently in the journal Sleep Health, that even includes West Point cadets. So you're talking about like the cream of the crop, healthiest, future military leaders who are only 18, 19 years old, they're within the average standard deviation of sleep disorders. That's how prevalent it is. And we found the same too, actually. We published a paper last year in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research where we did a longitudinal assessment of sleep health in Division I football players at Towson University. And we found the same thing. About 70% of them fit the diagnosis for sleep apnea comorbid with insomnia. So it's common even in like extremely fit and healthy individuals otherwise. Like I said, I myself, I'm 36. I have mild sleep apnea. I was not surprised when I was diagnosed because I've been an athlete and in the military. So I'm just, another statistic.
How many times when they studied you did you stop breathing? And what is it, an hour or per
So,
minute? Per minute, right?
no, it's per hour.
Per
So
hour. Okay.
I'm very low on the spectrum. My index was 5, so I wake up about 5 times an hour. Um, so there's different degrees. So
Do you want to guess where mine was real quick?
all right, I'm gonna say you have moderate and 14.
No, I'm pretty sure I was like 60 times an
Oh,
hour.
shit. So you had obstructive sleep apnea.
Yeah, I was every minute.
Sleep apnea.
Yeah. So for those out there who are having issues, I mean, could you even discuss, if you don't mind, like what are some of the side effects of not getting your sleep apnea in check?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest side effect is excessive daytime sleepiness. You just this inability to stay awake and maintain alertness, even while driving a car. Like that's as bad as it gets, right? Like if you are falling asleep at a stoplight, which I mean, it happens, right? Like when you do those long 48-hour shifts, like your body just wants any opportunity to
So
sleep.
the micro sleeps, is that what that's called?
Yeah, micro sleeps.
Yeah, and we're only driving $1 million ladder trucks or
Yep. Or
$500,000 engines, whatever it is.
right. It's the same thing.
No big deal.
Right. And so that's where the risk runs. And actually, this is a lot of times why my team at Walter Reed, Army Institute of Research, that's a lot of times, unfortunately, when we were called out to help this particular unit, is there's some fatigue related accident. Like a few years ago, we had some ranger instructors who were coming down off their 40-hour shift from, sleep depriving the cadets in the mountains. And 2 of them crashed into a tree on the way home because they, like their system gave up. And it's because of those micro sleeps, which are that microsecond of sleep, like is life or death sometimes. And so that's why it's really, really critical at its worst to get your sleep apnea and your sleep disorders in check.
Nice, good deal. Staying on this whole topic, there's lots of stuff on sleep I made notes for to talk to you about because it's just, I know I can run all this stuff by you, can break it down to all the viewers and listeners there. So lack of sleep and the cancer and it kind of defeating the cancer killing cells. Can you kind of touch on that too?
Sure. I mean, I know the research. I'm certainly not an expert in sleep deprivation and cancer biology, but I do know that it's most widely recognized and a concern in shift work. They say that shift work now, I believe, takes 10 to 15 years off your life. And a lot of it is because of these increased incidences for cancer. Because again, sleep helps keep the body in check. It helps keep the immune system stable. It helps keep all those biological processes stable. And so when you're constantly sleep deprived and or shifting the system and providing this extra stress, it stresses the whole biological system.
Is it as simple as saying sleep is your body's opportunity to heal?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Cover.
And
Absolutely.
when you're depriving yourself, I mean you're not allowing it to heal, and that's why again we're so prevalent and shift work in itself is a level 2A probable carcinogen.
Yep, exactly. It has been, and that's from OSHA, right? I believe that it's.
IARC, yeah,
Yep.
International Agency for Research on Cancer. I'm still staying on this topic. How important, I know you talk about this in O2X, but it's something I wish every department would have in their policy. What about safety naps?
Safety nets are key. And that's something now, even with the military, we've embraced. So much so that it's been included in the new field training manual called the Field Training Manual for Holistic Health and Fitness. And a nap, 20 to 30 minutes a day, does wonders for minimizing your sleep debt that you accrue from just, the type of job you have. And two, it could possibly be the difference between life and death, right? Like it can help minimize your sleep debt enough where you're not gonna, fall asleep in your car or compromise the safety of you or your, battles.
Yeah. Um, and I've seen a few places now where they actually have policy to where like basically lunchtime till around 1 o'clock is like off limits for training or and doing anything else. Phone calls, I mean nothing. The only thing that you take is actual runs if they come in, but other than that, that's your opportunity to rest.
Yep, exactly. So, I mean, and honestly, there's nothing wrong with doing like safety naps across the day or across the night. That's something that we implement and advocate for in our O2X training sessions. You can take 3 or 4 naps a day if you're in a position where you're going to be up for 24 plus hours, here and there.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to send this to my boss so he can.
Good.
Hey, we need like 4 naps, sir, please.
Well, I mean, you could send the new Army training manual. So it's FM 7-22, and we wrote Chapter 11, which is all about sleep and strategic napping.
That's perfect. You know what we need to send that to for sure is about 3 years ago, I was in England. I was doing a tour of the different brigades there, kind of
Mhm.
seeing what they do regarding firefighter cancer. And there was 2 large brigades there that they had gotten in a fight. The union had gotten in a fight with management, and management's way of retaliating was taking all the beds and throwing them in a warehouse. So it's just you
That's
know.
torture. Oh my gosh.
So
Yeah.
all these guys and gals had either had to bust out the air mattresses or their sleeping bags or sleep in some weird chair every night.
Yeah.
No beds at the firehouse.
That's terrible. I mean,
Yes.
there's select fire departments that I've visited where it's just, you see their sleeping conditions and you see, when the state or the county invests in like the most cost effective, like bare minimum mattress just to cut costs. And I don't think that's the right strategy because think of all the second order impacts it's going to have. That's one of the things, like, with our O2X seminars is and our workshops, is we found like in the Boston fire department alone, it saved them $1.8 million in a year, and workers comp and all these health related issues just through the simple fact of having this sleep education, and like different educational avenues through O2X.
That's amazing. Let's talk about some other things that are related to all this stuff. And you just kind of sound off on what your thoughts are. Weighted blankets.
Weighted blankets. So actually, have I don't sleep with one. But I do have, like, I wouldn't say a heavy comforter, but I don't know. My opinion's still not out on that until I see the actual peer reviewed data. Um, Most people I talk to, though, I haven't heard anything negative, right? So maybe a weighted blanket is just like with, there's that debate about stretching. Does stretching actually reduce injury, or does it just stabilize injury? It doesn't increase injury. We know
Sure.
that. So maybe weighted blankets are like that. It doesn't decrease sleep quality. Um, I will say my dog absolutely loves the weighted blanket that I have. I have a friend from college. He actually has a weighted blanket company. It's called Rooster. Um, and so far,
Shameless plug, Rooster.
I am. It's a shameless plug for Henry's company. But Henry has worked really hard. He's talked to me and he's talked to a few of my colleagues. Like, he he's trying to take an evidence-based approach. So
Good. All right. What about sound machines?
sound machines are amazing. I used to think they were gimmicky until We were involved with a study that the Army Surgeon General's office sponsored, where we found that this particular noise frequency called pink noise, it's very similar to white noise, but it's softer. That's why it's called pink noise. Um, actually changes the neural connectivity in one of the sleep circuits of the brain. It's called the thalamocortical loop. Um, so there is evidence-based, like neuroanatomical research to support it. I have a sound machine. I've had one for years now. If I don't have it with me when I travel, because I used to travel a ton before COVID, I used to bring it with me. But even this weekend, I was in a hotel and I didn't have my sound machine, so I used a pink noise app on my phone. Um, they're legit.
Okay, there you go. Myth, not busted, plausible. There you go.
Oh, yes.
Plausible. I love that show. Uh, Testosterone.
Okay, we could talk about this all day. So, the biggest benefit or the easiest way for me to get those young, invincible males in the military and football players and all the like who want to work hard, play hard, party hard is to show them the data about what happens to plasma testosterone levels almost immediately under sleep deprivation. So there's been a wealth of studies done over the years, and they've been repeated on several occasions in different age groups and demographics of males to show that as soon as you stop getting about 70 to 80% of your daily sleep needs, so you're taking your sleep from 8 hours to 5 hours, there is an immediate drop in your testosterone to about 50%. And it doesn't come back up until you get good, adequate sleep again. So imagine a situation, and this is why there are firefighters and military personnel, and especially the special forces communities. Those guys do such rapid deployments. There's a reason why they're on low dose testosterone to stabilize their normal levels, and it's because of the long term effects of sleep deprivation hampering and hindering their normal testosterone secretion.
So I've got about the same. I think the same guys that have the CPAP machines at my station are the same guys that have to get
Yep.
testosterone every
And
week.
so that would make sense because how sleep apnea, part of the diagnosis is you have this inability to enter the deepest, most restorative stages of sleep. So you can't enter what is called stage 3 non-REM sleep. And most oftentimes you don't enter REM sleep, which is the state of sleep when you dream. That's why a lot of times when people go on CPAP, they have this massive sleep rebound and REM sleep, and they start having they feel as if they've dreamt all night long. It's because of years and years of not being able to enter REM sleep, and now they have the ability to because they can breathe again.
Yeah.
So they're going to have more of it, right? It's a delicate balance and a seesaw.
But are you also saying, correct me if I'm wrong, in about 5 years when I'm done and I can have a normal schedule, like a non, just Monday, I'm retired then. You're
Yeah.
saying my levels will actually go up.
Yes, if you do everything right, if you listen to me and the others O2X, and it should improve. I mean, once you're diagnosed with sleep apnea, um, it's there can be improvements, but if you were diagnosed with obstructive sleep apnea, chances are you're going to be using that machine for a very long time. But in terms of sleep hygiene, absolutely you can work on that, and then not having shifted schedules and being on a normal 9 to 5, like 100%.
Nice. Something to look forward to.
Yes, exactly.
What about caffeine and energy drinks?
Oh, awesome question. So that's more or less I guess my area of expertise, and a lot of the work I do with the military is I've been involved with creating caffeine dosing schedules that can be used during long missions. So ideas when you have to keep soldiers awake for 24 hours, 40 hours, 60 hours. And we've actually done some behavioral health studies to show that the caffeine source matters. So first and foremost, you should never at one point in time consume more than 200 milligrams at a single time. 200 milligrams is about a venti Starbucks. So think about like 3 cups of coffee, which is a lot, right? Like you don't want to ever exceed 3 cups of coffee at once. Problem is most energy drinks have more than 200 milligrams of caffeine. So you're already at a loss right there using energy drinks as a caffeine dosing source. The other thing is you want to space it out for about 3 to 4 hours. And if you do that, where you're consuming no more than 200 milligrams at a time for 3 to 4 hours, and say you have to be awake for 24, 40, 60 hours, you will, for the most part, like you're going to feel bad, obviously, when you hit like 40, 45, 50 hours of sleep deprivation, but you're still going to be like with it. Now, the problem becomes with energy drinks. So we actually have done a behavioral health study to show that if you're consuming 2 or more energy drinks a day, you actually are at a really great risk for PTSD, anxiety, and depression. And this wasn't a small scale study. This is done across an entire division of the Army, which is about 2,000 to 3,000 soldiers.
Wow, I'm trying to think. Okay, so that 2 or more energy drinks a day, that's about half the firefighters out there too.
Oh, absolutely.
Plus,
I mean,
plus coffee too.
it's
Yeah.
soldiers too. But here's the thing, like that rule doesn't really apply with coffee, because the problem with energy drinks is they have all these unnecessary chemical additives and compounds that basically, and this has been shown in animal models, it creates a condition known as neurotoxicity, where it's overstimulation of the brain. And so in response to overstimulation, the brain freaks out and prematurely kills off its nerve cells. It's called necrosis. So it literally, like energy drinks literally kill brain cells.
That's awesome. It's great news.
Yeah. That's why that it's of all like like I guess my proudest accomplishment in my current position working with the Army esports team is like I've gotten most of them to not consume any energy drinks, which is great because the esports culture is so ingrained in energy drinks, right? Like all the major energy drink companies sponsor some esports team. And 2, the soldiers who do still use energy drinks, they just know to like hide it when, when Major Brager comes walking in.
What about, is this kind of the same thing? Anything to do with pre-workout?
Yeah, so pre-workout is the same thing. I mean, pre-workout has its like use case basis, right? If you're like competing, I'll admit I took pre-workout this week. I was competing in a CrossFit competition this weekend, and our last workout, it was like our 5th workout of the day, and we needed to like go ham. So I took pre-workout. It had 400 milligrams of caffeine and a hydrous, and it did its job, but use case basis, right? Like if you're in a situation, and this is true with energy drinks, where your safety is compromised because you are so sleep deprived, take it. But on a daily basis, like this is where it becomes an issue. So we advocate for like using stimulants when it's absolutely necessary and safety is an issue, but not using them otherwise.
Okay, no, I follow you there. Now, let me ask you this along the same lines of caffeine in general. Let's say my bedtime was 9 o'clock, which
Mm-hmm.
it usually, not when I'm home, that's usually around 10, but when I'm at the station, and I'm definitely the old guy at the station, it's 9 o'clock,
Good.
those guys know, like, all right, it's
Early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Ben Franklin, right?
I'm working on it. When should be the last time, like if my 9 o'clock sleep time, when should I stop drinking caffeine?
So at least 6 to 8 hours before you go to bed. Um, The half-life of caffeine, I believe, is for energy drinks and coffee, it's about an hour to an hour and a half. If you're taking caffeine gum, like we have for our studies, it's 10, 20 minutes. But that's because it's going from the saliva directly to the brain. It's not being digested and then going to the brain like coffee and energy drinks. But it's still going to be in your system for up to 6 to 8 hours.
Okay, I follow you. I don't know. I think that uh, we have such bad habits at the firehouse. I don't
Yeah.
think we follow that very well.
I
Uh,
mean, yeah, it's all about group mentality, right? And changing the culture. It's once one person does it, and then another person, it's just easier. It's the group think mentality, right?
what about retention?
Retention.
Just, I mean, whether it's physical or mental, how does sleep have to do with retention?
Oh, so much so. I mean, burnout, psychological burnout, that has been studied on several occasions, between sleep deprivation and risk for psychological burnout. But it's the same with physical exhaustion too, right? Like all those studies now, um, looking at sleep deprivation in athletes, especially like anaerobic athletes and aerobic athletes. It immediately impacts their performance. And I'm sure it's the same in the tactical community too. We're a little bit behind in terms of formally studying it.
So, speaking of studying, I know when I was studying for promotion, it was one of those stay up late and study, wake up early study.
Yeah.
And knowing what I know now, and knowing talking to you, I went about that the wrong way,
You
and
weren't
that's and
sure
that's
anything.
and that's why I'm still a firefighter. And not that's not the only reason, but
No.
yeah. So no, that's it. Sleep would actually help me remember all that I was studying. Correct.
Absolutely. Because that's when we memorize information is in our sleep. Because
I
I shouldn't say that. We actively memorize it right during the day, but then it's consolidated and stored and then repackaged for reprocessing when we sleep.
okay. I follow you. All right, now I want to kind of switch subjects now
Okay.
and talk about the future.
The future. Okay.
The future, yes. The final frontier.
Okay.
Let's talk about space.
Let's talk about space.
Let's talk about space. So you're in the running to be an astronaut.
Yes, I am.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I've always wanted to be an astronaut. Growing up in Ohio,
It's kind of what we do.
what we do, we have the most presidents, we have the most astronauts, and just you grow up wanting to be a president or an astronaut when you grow up in Ohio, right?
That's right.
I mean, that's what Wilbur Wright said, right? Find a good mother and father and start life in Ohio. Like
He's buried like 10 minutes away from me. Yeah.
exactly, too easy, right?
Yeah. Because
Um,
we're first in flight, unlike Dino Ali's place. I just like to say that whenever I get a chance.
that is true.
North
Yeah.
Carolina, whatever. Cheaters.
But no, I've always been enraptured by space. And actually, my great uncle, who's from Youngstown, Ohio, he was a program manager for the Apollo space missions. So when we would visit his house in the Chesapeake, like I saw all his mementos from meeting Armstrong and Aldrin and John Glenn, and it like I just always wanted to be an astronaut. I just didn't know how until this time last year.
How did this all? I mean, you said you always wanted to be this, but how did this actually become a possibility?
Actually, through mentorship from my current brigade sergeant major. He actually just retired. His name is Sergeant Major Stephen Lake. And this time last year, when he became our brigade sergeant major, he came in the gym and he's like, "Ma'am, you're going to be an astronaut." And I was like, "Sergeant Major, like, what are you talking about?" And he's like, "They're going to have another call for the Army astronaut program. And I've been waiting for this." And he's like, "I saw your bio and like, you're perfect." So Sergeant Major worked on like helping me be vetted through the Army channels, and they had a nationwide call for astronauts around this time last year. So the idea was each branch of service got like 2 to 3 selections to then move forward to NASA, and then all the people applied from it, that from the normal civilian world. And so I know as of right now, I'm one of those 2 to 3. Like I'm on the short list, and I'm hoping.
Out of how many?
I don't know, but it's a very short list.
Okay.
But I'm
No,
hoping.
but I mean, how many did you go against just to even get to this far?
So within the Army, I went against 12,000 people.
Okay. So you did all right for yourself.
Yeah. So, and they selected, I believe, 2 or 3 from those 12,000. So I know I'm in the 2 to 3. And I'm hoping I get invited for on-site activities soon. I sort of had a cryptic email that seems to be the case, but I'm trying to stay hopeful, but at the same time, I'm grateful to have made it this far.
That's pretty cool. And you're perfect for it. Like it's David Bowie basically wrote a song for you.
He basically, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like when I went for my flight physical this time last year, I definitely had Space Oddity playing, especially since I'm a major, right?
It's
Like,
perfect. Yes.
and major bragger, ground control to major bragger, take your protein pills, which I love taking whey protein after I train, and put your helmet on. Like,
Yeah.
it's perfect.
You gotta. I mean, you have a ready-made theme song.
I do. I do.
By David freaking Bowie.
I mean, David Bowie is already like one of the greatest artists of all times. Like he and Pink Floyd, right? Which we already had a discussion about, but
yeah.
But yeah, that would be my theme song when the space shuttle is going up.
I expect a video.
Oh, for sure. You'll
I'm
get.
trying to remember who there was an astronaut not too long ago that did I think they did a video of him singing that up there.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's been done like
Yeah.
so many times now, and I follow all the astronauts on Instagram, so it's like awesome to see like the silly things they do in space, because I do that stuff back here on planet Earth. So
Yes.
I think I'll find ways to keep myself entertained up there if I actually get the opportunity to go.
Well, yeah, that's gonna be cool. And if you do, you get to come on this show and tell us everybody about that.
Exactly.
Yes. So, but part of this whole process is you're still gonna have some interviews left, right?
Yes, absolutely. We're going to do some on the spot interviews.
So I want to do some of my 25 questions for you.
Okay,
To
sweet.
prep you. This is like just prepping for that whole interview thing.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Pick a number 1 through 25.
21.
Favorite album?
Oh, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon.
That's a good one.
Last Friday, we had to do this really long bike endurance workout. And I was like, this is the perfect album to listen to because it's 74 minutes long. And it's like you hit this like hallucinatory state throughout the workout. Oh man, it was awesome.
Did you ever do the whole Wizard of Oz thing with it?
No.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I have. Maybe, you know what? Maybe when I'm like tomorrow, that's what I'm going to do when I'm lying dying from
the COVID. Yeah. No, you can just go on. Technology is there for us. It makes it easier now. Before you had to sync the times with the record and the movie. Now you can just go on this place called YouTube and type it in, and it's all set up for you. And it is kind of freaky how the whole thing is set up. It's like it's in sync with the movie.
Well, so actually, The Wizard of Oz is my favorite movie. Well, I should say it's my favorite classic movie. My favorite movie is Basic Instinct, but my favorite classic is The Wizard of Oz.
Favorite play, Wicked?
No, it's actually not. I love Rent. Well, I think it's also because Rent is the first play I saw on Broadway.
That's pretty cool. Mine was Monty Python and or Spamalot. Yeah, Spamalot.
Oh, Spamalot, that was a great one too.
Yeah. I'm that guy that likes that and like the Book of Mormon and.
Oh Book of Mormon was fantastic. I did not see that in New York. I saw that in Atlanta. But that's like a Broadway soundtrack that I love listening to over and
Sure.
over again.
It's true. I'm supposed to at some point when we have live events again. I'm supposed to have tickets set up for Hamilton.
Okay.
Which
So
is did
my college teammate, we were hurdlers and sprinters at Brown, is David Diggs, who is in the original Hamilton cast as Thomas Jefferson.
oh, that's a great he's a great character in there.
Yeah. No, he helped create and write. I mean, I shouldn't say write, but he helped write and rap, and he was in the original cast.
Very nice. That's so cool.
Yep.
You got cool friends everywhere. She was telling me before she knows Seth Rollins from the WWE, and I mean, whatever.
Well, I
Somebody.
got lucky meeting Seth
Just
Rollins.
I'm glad I know you now before you're like too cool for me.
Hey, we could go to a WWE show together when Seth Rollins comes here, because you're not too far from me. Because that's usually what he does. He'll like text me, like he knows like where I live and where I moved to, and he'll text me and be like, "Hey, can we train together?" Because he's an avid CrossFitter, and so that's how I met him, is through
Because
CrossFit.
you've got correct me if I'm wrong, Louisville has the Yum Center, which is a newer arena. And then
Yes.
you have Rupp Arena, which is pretty close to you too, which is a huge arena. Like that's like 23,000 people.
Yep.
That's where UK plays. So
I mean, and Cincinnati's not that far as well,
no, not at all. That's almost the halfway point, give or take.
Exactly. So we'll go to a WWE match in Cincy. I just have to when COVID's over, right?
Yeah. Well, you got your shots. I got mine. So hopefully soon enough, right?
Exactly.
Pick another number.
17.
Favorite actor or actress?
Ooh, well, I have to go. That's easy. Glenn Close. So Basic Instinct is my absolute favorite movie. I also love Fatal Attraction. I personally like Glenn Close. She wasn't my favorite actor until maybe 10 years ago. And she became my favorite actress because she actually spoke as the keynote at our annual Society for Neuroscience conference, which has like 40,000 people. And it turns out that she comes from a very strong family history of very severe psychological disorders, such as schizophrenia and bipolar. Like all her siblings, except for her, have either schizophrenia or bipolar. And so that's actually why she started acting, is because in playing the roles she does in Fatal Attraction and Basic Instinct and even Cruella de Vil, is because she wanted to like put herself in her siblings' shoes.
That's kind of cool.
That's so cool.
That's
Yeah.
not. Yeah. Nobody else knows the background. That's why I bring you on the show for interesting facts like that.
But yeah, like since that day, like I have always loved Basic Instinct because it's like just so controversial, and then the classic scene with Newman like investigating her. But then like after that, I was like, yes, she is my all-time favorite actress.
Nice.
Or
How about we try to do one more? Pick a good one.
we'll do lucky number 7.
This is a deeper one. It could be deeper. I don't know. What is something popular now, but everyone will look back at it 5 years from now and think it's dumb or embarrassing?
Oh, that's so easy. TikTok.
TikTok. And this is coming from a TikTok specialist that has CUs in it.
All those TikTok specialists, but yes, I have
You've been actually trained how to use it.
TikTok. Yes,
Do you have a TikTok?
I
Like
have
that you use? Or you just
No, I don't. I don't have a single post. Well, I made one post on my TikTok account for our annual sleep conference happy hour because it was virtual this year. It was that. Remember, it was like all the hype about doing the outfit change with the mirror when you spray Windex on the mirror and then you take a towel and you wipe the mirror and then they're in a different outfit and then you wipe back and you're in a different outfit.
no,
So
I don't remember that.
Anyway, I did a TikTok about that because I literally spend like half a year looking for like the new conference clothes. So that's why I like to be fashion forward at conferences if I'm not wearing my military uniform.
Fair enough. No, that sounds good. I don't blame you. If anybody wanted to kind of track down what you've worked on or check, not stalk you, but get more information, no stalkers, please. Where could they find out more information about you?
So I am on Instagram quite often. That's actually like our main recruiting channel. So it's Doc Jock ZZZ DOCJOCK ZZZ. So if you, honestly, I have a lot of people who ask me questions about sleep on there. You can of course buy my book Meathead: Unraveling the Athletic Brain on Amazon.
It's another plug, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry. She
Well,
had she's shameless at this point.
I mean, honestly, I don't make much money. I make very, very, very little money on my book. It wasn't my intention for writing it, but I like to share the wealth of knowledge.
I'm just messing with you. It's fine. You're good. No, seriously. Thank you for everything you're doing. I know, it's military based, but it has so much more effect on just everybody else, especially, for our police officers and firefighters as well.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are the fighting force of the civilian world. So, I mean, thank you for your service and what you do too. I don't think you hear that enough. We hear that all the time, but you know, I feel like you deserve it more than us because you're in it every day.
We're all on the same team, different uniform.
Exactly.
So,
One
all
team,
right,
one.
that's right. So, ladies and gentlemen, one more time, Major Allison Brager. Thank you so much. Seriously,
You're welcome.
you rock, sister.
Thanks. Go Bucks.
Go Bucks. All right. Talk to you, viewers and listeners next month.